So when I got my first ever camera around about 10 years ago now, my main mission was to learn how to shoot in manual. And looking back, I'm really glad that I made that my main mission. I think it's brilliant to be able to shoot in manual, but does shooting in manual make you a proper photographer, or does none of that really even matter? I think, let's be honest, let's just address this right from the start. Of course it doesn't. It doesn't make you a real photographer. It doesn't mean anything. It's just the tool that you're using and how you're choosing to use it. But the reason I wanted to make this video is because a few weeks ago here in the Lake District, I took one image, one very specific photograph that was taken in aperture priority, which I shoot in a lot, by the way. Probably about 80% of the photographs that I take nowadays are just taken in aperture priority. But with this particular photograph, I was shooting on a tripod, I was being lazy, my ISO went up to 500, but yet I still shot the image anyway. And yeah, I don't know really, man, it just wound me up a little bit, to be honest. Like I said, it made me feel like I was being lazy, it made me feel like I wasn't being a real, true photographer, whatever that even means, but you know, just letting the camera, letting this little computer decide these exposure settings for me in that instance didn't feel right at all. And honestly, it probably sounds really benign, the example that I've used, shooting in ISO 500 in aperture priority. It doesn't really matter. However, just a couple of weeks later came a much more serious incident with regards to taking photographs. And in all honesty, it was absolutely heartbreaking, and it is that particular incident that has really made me want to question whether or not I should be shooting in aperture priority. But before we get into that, we're climbing another Wainwright here in the beautiful Lake District National Park. This is quite a small one. It's called Barrow, and I'm hoping to photograph some of the heather. It should be around about peak now. I'm shooting with my Nikon Z7. I've got my 14 to 30 millimeter lens and my beloved 24 to 200 millimeter lens. And to be honest, I'm going to be shooting in manual today because of this flipping incident that, yeah, I was gutted. I was absolutely gutted. So I'll make a little bit of progress up this hill, up Barrow, and you know, I'll have a little bit of a chat about it because it didn't happen on YouTube or anything like that. And yeah, I've just been meaning to talk about it. It was very annoying. Oh wow, I'm only about 10 minutes from where I've parked the car, and already we're getting spectacular views over Bassenthwaite Lake, a whole of the Skiddaw range there, that big lump you can see, back to Blencathra of course, you can see a bit of Ullock Pike. I think that's Binsey, the tiny little hill just off past the water. If you can see that, that is the northernly-most Wainwright, I believe. And then yeah, back over to Clough Head. Great Mell Fell we can see off in the background there through the trees. And yeah, Wainwright says this is a wonderful little fell. We should be getting some really good views of Derwent water actually, which is nice. Now let me get into this flipping incident, man, because it was a heartbreaker. All right, so basically, as a lot of you know, I was on a cruise in Norway, just a family holiday. It wasn't a photography trip, but I had to take my camera gear with me, as I'm sure all of you will understand. It had to be done. And although the video that I filmed in Norway was a hike, a particular hike that I went on, I had plenty of opportunities to take photographs from the deck of this cruise ship. And again, as I'm sure you'll understand, I was out there as much as I could be. And there were certain periods where the light and the scenery were incredible, and the combination of both was some of the best conditions that I've ever seen. And I was shooting in aperture priority, enjoying the scenery, enjoying taking photographs, living the dream. Some would say, most would say, it was incredible, mind-blowing. Snapping away, loving that the camera was doing half of the job for me, and I was just concentrating on composition and subject and light and all of that stuff. And then I got the images home. And to my utter dismay, all of the images from this particular evening at least were taken at least ISO 3200. In fact, half of them were taken at ISO 6400. And oh man, I was gutted and I was raging purely because I'd chosen to shoot in aperture priority, but then just because the conditions are so amazing, I just forgot about settings. I wasn't thinking about it. And yeah, again, it's what's prompted me to want to maybe change things a little bit and stop this aperture priority nonsense. No, but no, I'm not going to stop shooting in aperture priority. It's just given me a real nudge to say, look, like sometimes in certain scenarios in photography, you can't rely on the camera, you can't rely on the computer. And this was absolutely one of those incidents, one of those scenarios. I'm just umming and ahhing here as to whether or not I can take a photograph. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to set it up properly though, so I can shoot in manual. We've just got some really nice light looking back over Derwent water. Whilst I'm setting up here, I'll mention to you, a lot of you will have seen already, but I've recently released my first ever digital photography ZINE. And if you don't know what that is, it's basically a sort of mashup between a travel diary or a behind the scenes photography diary and a photo book. So it's $4.99. You download it off my website, you can scan this QR code. I'll leave a link in the description below. And it's 30 pages long and it's all about Norway. So it includes the incident in question in this video about where I messed up my settings. But there were so many amazing photographs, like I've been saying, that I felt weird not being able to share. So I thought this would be a really good opportunity. I've wanted to do one for a while. And yeah, it's full of tips and anecdotes and facts about where I went, shooting off the deck of this cruise ship and little adventures that I went on. But you can click in the description down below or whatever, go and check it out. Thanks so much to anyone that's purchased one already. If you decide to purchase one, thank you. It really helps me keep doing what I do. And I think you're gonna love it. It's taken me ages and I'm so proud of it. And I've had loads of great feedback from it as well. But yeah, go and check it out. I need to get this shot. Do you know what I find proper weird actually? And I actually mentioned this in that ZINE that I was just on about, or is it a zine or a ZINE? I don't even know how to say the thing that I've made. But I was talking about when I went to Norway, I only had my OM system and my 12 to 60 millimeter, which is a 24 to 120 millimeter full frame. And I felt like it was fine. But now I'm taking an image here at 200 millimeters, which is kind of weird. It makes me think that like, you never really, you always feel like you need more or you want more, whether it's a wider focal range or more megapixels or something. But we're all like adaptable as photographers, aren't we? Like if I don't have 200 millimeters, it doesn't matter. I know when I go out, the maximum is 120 millimeters and I just deal with it. It's fine. And it always feels like enough. Don't know if I'm making any sense there, but right. Very simple image. Just popped it on manual because I'm a proper photographer. Some people say that and they actually mean it, don't they? Madness. ISO 64, unbelievable. f7.1 and 1/60th of a second. I'm just going to make sure I've got the old 2-second timer on. And yeah, it's all about layers. Classic telephoto Lakeland photograph and a nice little bit of light as well in the middle of the photograph. So the word Barrow, as is the name of today's Wainwright, is just an Anglo-Saxon word for hill or long ridge, Wainwright says in his guide. And oh, we're getting a view up towards the summit now. I don't know if you could see that, but there is a massive chunk of heather up there. That is very colourful. And I'm just keeping an eye on that. Look at that light there. That is absolutely beautiful. And it just changes everything. And this is what I love. Let me show you. It's not quite in the right place at the moment. We've got that beautiful light there. And then around in that direction there, off in the distance, we've just got this kind of amazing set of clouds that just sitting atop that particular ridge. That particular barrow over there. But yeah, that's really changed things. Hopefully that sticks around. That is beautiful. And over in that direction, look, it's crazy how quickly it can change. Right over Derwent water where we shot before, it is just hitting Waller Crag like a spotlight. It's fantastic. So I've got to keep my eyes peeled here. Whoa, look at it. Look at it, man. Oh, this is what it can do. Got some little mates down here as well. Oh man. See, this is a good example actually of going back to the whole point of the video, the whole topic. aperture priority, manual, whatever. This is when I'd be thinking about aperture priority. As long as I'm aware of what my ISO's doing and stuff, I don't want to be reacting to light that's changing this quickly by shooting in manual mode. For me, I want a semi-automatic mode, aperture priority. I want the camera to do the, you know, a large chunk of the work as far as the settings are concerned, and I want to concentrate on that. But I think the moral of kind of the story of this whole video and what I learned when I was in Norway that particular evening is you still have to keep an eye on your settings. You have to have an awareness of what that camera is choosing to do, or yeah, you could be left disappointed. I think there's maybe something here, oh, for a photograph, maybe with the wide angle. I just really like, obviously this section here where it dips down feels a lot more craggy all of a sudden, and it appeals to me. And then we've got kind of a few nice little layers over in this direction, and oh, if we only had that light spilling in there from the right hand side again. I'm going to stop here, you know, and have a little go, because I think this is nice. What I'm going to do is, it's a weird one this, because this kind of goes against a lot of advice that I give, but sometimes with the wide angle lens I like to actually start by putting the wide angle lens on, but then like looking through the viewfinder. And yeah, usually I advise people to do the opposite. You know, put your bag down, don't even bother with your camera to start with, and try and find a composition with your eyes. Don't be fixated on your gear. But I feel like the wide angle lens, 14mm, is such a mad kind of unnatural perspective that, yeah, oftentimes I feel like it's better to actually look through the camera so that you've got that kind of perspective live, you know. All right, so a lot of faffing around with the tripod. Unfortunately, oh, you can see there, look, the light's gone in, at least for the moment. It's kind of like a blessing and a curse, all of that thick cloud. I love it, and it's going to feature in this photograph here actually. Oh, but a bit of that light down here on the heather would have been absolutely lovely. So yeah, tripod's in a bit of a mad position, but I'm shooting at 1/13 of a second, and I'm just not willing to put my ISO up, or else I'm kind of going against the whole premise of this video for the most part. Portrait orientation, as you can see there. And what I'm trying to do is I've really tried to find a very strong, a very colourful section of the heather, mostly just to kind of combat the lack of light. You know, we don't have any light, so the next best thing in this scenario at least is colour. You can see, look at that, I'm so close, probably half a metre, maybe even less, from the front of the lens. And that's the whole story with the wide angle lens. Try and get in close to really get some nice foreground elements. I can't like use my camera properly with my left hand because it's all like muscle memory. So I'm actually, what I was going to say, I'm going to stop down a little bit more. I'm going to go to f14 just because I am so close to that heather, which means of course I'm going to have to adjust the shutter speed ever so slightly. A couple of stops, make it longer. So we're on 1/8 of a second. You know, that's so slow. Focus about 1/3 of the way up on the LCD screen. Make sure I've got that 2-second timer on actually. There we go. And then let's get the shot. It's all right. It's all right. Classic Lakeland kind of late August photograph with the heather and the deep greens and the stormy skies. I love that. Just would have liked myself a little bit of light, and the compositions, yeah, not bad, not bad. I've just put it on aperture priority just for the crack, just because what we're chatting about today. So I've kept it on f14 because that's what I want. ISO's gone on auto because that's generally how I shoot in aperture priority. And it's gone to 1/60th of a second. So this is assuming I won't be using a tripod. And the ISO's on 1100. Again, like I said at the start of the video, not the end of the world, you know, and I refer to what I said before again, like with the light. If that light was amazing then, you know, and it looked fleeting and it looked, you know, kind of like it looks now, where it's sort of just peeking from behind that ridge, see? If that was all kicking off, there was not a chance I'd have been faffing with the tripod then. I'd have stuck it in aperture priority, handheld, 1100 ISO. I wouldn't have cared at all because I would have got the shot. There is a time and a place, I feel, for these semi-automated modes. And again, that's the moral of the story, isn't it? All right, because of the light behind that ridge, I feel like the place to be is on the top of the fell, is on the top of Barrow, the Wainwright. So we're going to get a little bit of a wobble on. Oh, I'll show you this in a minute that I absolutely love. But oh, look, it's gone so flat. It's gone so flat. All of that thick cloud, that was absolutely, I thought that was a person up there. Can you see at the top? It's just a sheep glaring at me. But yeah, all of that thick cloud that I loved has got even thicker, and it's properly snuffed out that light. You wouldn't even believe that it was there. But yeah, this time of year, oh, the heather is just glorious. I don't think that last shot was any good, but like I said, if we don't have light, at least we can work with colour. But what I absolutely adore is the bracken, the way it starts turning. So you've got these little bits of yellow and these kind of little bits of lime green, and most importantly, that kind of, as it starts dying back, that copper rusty colour mixed in amongst the green. Look at all of that. I tell you what, that is beautiful in the woodland as well, if you can find any. But yeah, with the heather kind of dotted in and amongst it as well, that is fantastic. Hopefully there's more of that a little bit further up near our weird little demon sheep. Oh wow, this is absolutely beautiful. I'll tell you what, old Wainwright was not wrong. Look at this, we've got a little bit further to go, only a little bit, it's quite flat now, till we get to the peak. Oh, I cannot help but feel just a little bit gutted that that light's gone. And this is the problem that I have with the Wainwrights a lot of the time. One of the only problems is that sometimes you come up to a mint little fell like this and the conditions are just a little bit, you know, a little bit naff, a little bit flat, and it just makes you think, oh man, I just want to go up every single fell in perfect conditions, if only. But I've spotted an image right off in the distance, and this is the thing, you deal with what you've got, don't you? You don't stand around and complain. Whilst I'm setting up here, I want to say another massive thank you to the sponsor of today's video, which is Squarespace. And if you've never heard of them, they're an all-in-one website building platform. It's literally a website that you go on to build your own website. I've been with Squarespace myself for several years now, since before I was sponsored by them. They've got loads of professional, wonderful looking templates that you can use, which are absolutely amazing. It just means you can have a website up and running within a couple of hours. They've also got amazing customer service. So even though it is very easy, they're always there to give you a helping hand. And you can also sell stuff through your Squarespace website as well, which is what I do. Like I mentioned before, I've got my new ZINE up for sale. My calendar's still available to pre-order. I advertise my workshops on there, all sorts. So yeah, they come highly recommended from me. If you'd like to give them a go, head over to squarespace.com/Henry Turner, which will get you a 14-day free trial, or there's a link in the video description below. If you like your free trial, make sure to use the offer code Henry Turner at checkout for 10% off your first purchase. Did anyone notice that I took my wide angle lens off and put it straight back on? Not good. We need the long lens for this shot, and yeah, we're just working with what we've got. So yeah, once again, I could easily come up to these places and just moan that I haven't got amazing conditions and I haven't got what I want, but what on earth would be the point in that? Because it's still beautiful in its own right. And it's part of being into landscape photography, I think, is over 90% of the time you don't get the conditions you want, probably over 95% of the times, you know, so you really do have to learn to adapt to whatever you've been given, because we can't control any of this. I say it all the time. And we're looking right back, pretty much directly south, I would say. And I think it's Esk Pike that we've got in our crosshairs here, right in at 200 millimeters again. Yeah, I think it's Esk Pike. It's quite hard to tell because there's a lot of cloud. And all I'm doing is a bit different, actually. Usually I really like using the rule of thirds and stuff, especially when I'm out in the fells. But I'm actually central. I think it's Esk Pike. And just having it as like a real central focus point in the frame, shooting in manual. And you know what? I'm coming out with all the cliches today, but I'm going to say it because I think this is a really, really important point. I'm just going to grab this shot now. Get the old 2-second timer on. I'll tell you what, I'll show you the image first, so that then we can refer to it. ISO 64, f11, and half a second. I quite like it. I really like it. We haven't got light, again, but that's exactly what I want to talk about. Now, what did I say there just before I got the photograph? I said there's no light, and I actually really don't like hearing myself say that anymore. I mean, you know what I mean when I say it. There's no light streaming in, there's no direct sunlight, but the truth is that there's always light, and that's a complete lie to say there isn't any. You've just got to try and find it, you know, and all right, it's not amazing, it's not the best quality of light, it's not particularly inspiring, but it's still there. And actually, that's what my eye was drawn to. I said it was Esk Pike, the sort of black dome-shaped fell that caught my eye. But in reality, it was the fact that that fell was so dark and so black that it made the section in front of it look really illuminated. So there's almost like this kind of white glow. I'll show you the image again and you'll see there's a dark ridge line down at the bottom of the frame. Then we go off into the second part of the photograph where it's light. I mean, it's like this nice glow coming down into this huge hill, which then leads you off into, again, the blackness of Esk Pike, and then we're back into the light of the sky. So you see what I mean? I'm saying there's no light, when really there we've had, you know, shadow, light, shadow, light. So it's just a case of, again, working with what you've got. It's not always perfect, but why be negative? Why? Why? Get a look. Right. Only a few more meters to go, I think, until we bag yet another Wainwright, you beauty. Oh, lens cap. Where are you? There it is. We're safe. Oh, there we go. Here's the summit of Barrow, another Wainwright, absolute beauty. Ah, fantastic. This is amazing. I've just been wandering about the top of it. And Wainwright was absolutely correct for the amount of effort, the minimal effort it takes to get up here. It's absolute madness. I mean, look at this. It feels like you're right up in and amongst, you know, some quite big mountains there. Look at it, it's beautiful. And same in that direction where we just took that photograph before. And then look, got this incredible view down towards Derwentwater and back to Keswick. And I'll show you here. I'll just spin you around the town down here, way before Bassenthwaite Lake. That's where I parked the car. And yeah, you could definitely be up here in an hour. I think it's only 1.5 miles or something. I'm just remembering from the Wainwright book. Absolutely stunning. We are 8 minutes past sunset, and you can see we're not even getting any of that kind of residual colour that you often get when there's quite a lot of cloud. It's always a bit of a shame when you can see the potential, you can feel the potential when the light's nice earlier on and then it just gets snuffed out. It happens so much, doesn't it? I'll just mention again my ZINE. If you want to go and check it out, there'll be a QR code on the screen, or you can head over to my website or link in the description below. Yeah, my calendar's still available for pre-order as well. But throwing quite a lot of stuff at you, as I apologise, but yeah, it's a good way to support the channel if you want to. Thanks so much for watching. Another Wainwright, another good Wainwright. Oh, excuse me. See you on the next adventure. Out.